second volume of Pokémon Adventures, Thievery, Legendary Birds, and an adventure in the Safari Zone. Since I wasted so much time in the Volume 1 review, let's just jump right in.
Actually, a quick clarification. Mato stopped drawing due to an illness that left her hand weak. Unfortunately, Wikipedia only says that and not much more. My complaint that all she can draw is chibis still stands.
I really don't like this volume.
Plot-wise, it's important. It introduces 4 major characters, 3 humans and the most badass Pokemon in existence. However, its execution is poor, making this the worst of the first 3 volumes. While I was rather forgiving on the first volume due to it being an introductory volume, Volume 2 doesn't have that liberty.
Volume 2 sees the introduction of the thief Green. Fuck!
This was the character that was based off of the female concept art for the original games.
She is a thief who is afraid of birds, and that's about it.
She's only there for the first 3 adventures of the book, but does come back and play a bigger role in the 3rd volume. She also gets her backstory fleshed out in the 3rd chapter. In Japan, she is called Blue because that was the 3rd game released there. Also, it's worth noting that all characters have the same eye color as their name, except for green and blue. Maybe they were hoping that kids won't notice these things, or hoping that their editors didn't make it so blatantly obvious this time. Too bad, at least it will take them 4 more chapters, that would be 23 more volumes, until they have no choice but to fuck up. A quick tangent. So, for Pokemon White and Black, will the manga character named White be blind? In fact, I'm willing to bet money that White will be the blind kid from the Ruby Sapphire chapter. Back to the review. Green starts off rather annoying. She tricks Red into buying useless crap, and when he goes to get back his money, she steals his 2 badges. Things happen and the 2 of them are forced to work together. They are able to find Mew. However, Team Rocket isn't far behind. Red and Green, quickly go from trying to capture Mew to defending it. The reason for them working together is because Team Rocket wants to complete a Super Pokémon.
This bothers me.
They say that there are 150 Pokemon in the world. Mewtwo is still a test tube baby, and the only people who know about it are Red and the members of Team Rocket. Mew is clearly labeled as the Phantom Pokemon, the 151st. So, at this point in time, who is the 150th?
Number 0, missing no.
Well, that's my guess. Bad writing or bad translation? I don't know. Let's just move on. And Green returns the trainer badges that she stole from Red. In the next adventure, Red and Blue accidentally switch Pokemon. Hijinks ensue as they try to train each other's Pokemon. I really don't like this round. This adventure is only 14 pages long, but this event shouldn't have happened.
Pokeballs are shown in this story as having the red part being transparent, so you can see the Pokemon inside. They should have known what Pokemon they were picking up.
If you can actually get past the fact that this event shouldn't have happened, don't worry, there's a lot more to complain about.
It is 14 pages long. The event to get them to switch Pokemon and pick up each other's Pokeballs takes 3 pages. The event that makes them trade back their Pokemon is 5 pages. In the remaining 6 pages, there are a few hijinks. The worst part about this is a small text box that says 3 days later. This is an interesting idea. It has potential and things can be done, but 6 pages is not enough time.
I just think that if it was an adventure longer, it would be more satisfying, and I find it hard to believe that in a manga filled with this much creativity, this is the best that they could come up with.
Next round. Red meets up with Erica in order to have a gym battle. He has to capture an Eevee. He finds one with the help of Bill. And this Eevee was experimented on by Team Rocket to transform into any of its evolutions at will. And there are apparently a bunch of people in Celadon City that are also fighting against Team Rocket. I say apparently because we only see them twice. Once in the next volume for 1 panel, and in Volume 4.
In the last volume, my favorite adventures were the 2 at the end. This time, it's the 2 in the middle.
Red goes into the Safari Zone to capture some Pokemon. There is an accident and Red is forced to survive with only a robot Pidgey and a few items. I won't spoil anything except this. In the end, he manages to capture a bunch of Pokemon that are never seen again. The appendices at the back of the book state that he has seen 104 Pokemon and has caught 46. Besides a select few, we don't really see them. Also, in the appendix, this is the first time that we can read Red's Pokemon's nicknames in this translation. It's too bad because Viz just shot themselves in the foot again. You wouldn't think that something as small as nicknames would be important, but you'd be wrong. Why? Viz, you've already translated this manga once before. You should have known that a nickname was a plot point for one of the characters.
Okay, where was I?
And Red also poisons a Nidoking. Next round, an event that should have taken more than one round, Red meets up with Giovanni. He sort of just walks out of the cave with him acting all chummy, of course not knowing that he's standing next to the leader of Team Rocket, and perhaps the most badass human in this manga. Today, he is just a kind old man who is looking for fossils. You wouldn't know it from looking at him, but Giovanni suffers from a terrible disease known only as Hollywood cancer. Its symptoms are incredibly vague, and the disease is ultimately incurable, and the only way to live is hope that the writing staff or the fan base likes you. Part of the reason why I say this is rushed is because Red just teleports. Previously he was in Fuchsia City, and now he is in Pewter City. Once again, were they unable to think of anything interesting to happen while Red travels between these two spots?
Back with the plot, Red teleports back to Fuchsia City, and he has to find a way to cross the ocean. However, he doesn't have a Pokemon that can use Surf.
An important lesson is learned here. Gameplay mechanics don't really work that well as narrative devices. Anyways, the HM is destroyed before Red can get to it. Thankfully, it seems that the god of plot convenience is with Red today, because Misty shows up and gives him a Gyarados in exchange for a Krabby.
As previously mentioned, Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres are turned into pansies and captured off screen. Red meets up with Blaine and revives an Aerodactyl that knows how to fly even though he doesn't have the HM. And the volume ends with Red going back to Pallet Town.
However, he finds out that Professor Squarehead has been kidnapped.
I have to repeat myself and say that the first chapter's pacing is horrible. Red jumps around from place to place with no reason or way to until the end of the second volume. Things happen, but they sort of just zip by, and the second half of the volume just falls apart, and it really bugs me that we don't see the legendary birds being captured. God, I hate Suicune. They reference gameplay mechanics, which they quickly abandon. Part of me feels that this is forgivable since they just started the Pokemon manga and had yet to lay the foundation to the world. And, much like I'm trying to do right now, they were trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. Of the volumes that have been released so far, I have to say this is the worst. That is of course not counting Best of Pokémon Adventures Yellow. But the silver lining on the cloud is, after this volume everything begins to improve. And to prove it, up next is Volume 3. They reference gameplay mechanics, which they quickly abandon.